Small Business Tips Show, Episode 15. Hi, this is Frank Thomas and Nancy Boisvert from the Small Business Tips Show. Today we've got a really great show for you. It's called Elegant Simplicity, and it's all about the right way to develop products or ideas within your business. So stay tuned. So, Nancy, how are you today?
I'm great, Frank. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic, thank you. Fantastic.
Excellent.
So we've got a really interesting show today. It's something that popped into my mind about a week and a half ago.
I think that was when you first mentioned it to me.
Exactly, yeah. What's happening is, to put context into this whole conversation, I've been developing a piece of software. It's called Livestream Genius, and it's a piece of software that allows you to live stream into YouTube easily and efficiently. And it was a real dog to write, to be perfectly honest with you. There's lots of technical challenges that were within it, but also it was really easy to make the product complicated. And I discovered that it took me more time to simplify the product into something what I would call elegant simplicity than it was to actually write the initial algorithms to stream. Like the algorithms to stream took me a couple days, and Nancy, it took me literally about 3 months to make software simple. You've been to beta testing it. What do you think?
Well, I was going to mention about the fact that I was fortunate enough to be able to be one of your beta testers on this piece of software. And by the way, I think it's great. It's very easy to use. But you're right. In the initial betas that you gave me to test, I kept going in there and touching things I wasn't supposed to. Mm-hmm. And by the time you've given me the most recent beta, it now removes that option for me to get in there and monkey with things that I shouldn't. And
yeah, you noticed that,
eh? Yeah, which is going to be easier for everybody else, right? Because I'm not completely technologically challenged, although I'm certainly not great. But yeah, I found that I kept making the same errors.
Right. But you know, Nancy, you were great as a beta tester, and we actually brought in 10 beta testers, and I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself because this show's not about Livestream Genius, but it is a really good example to the elegant simplicity concept. One of the things is that, you know, you're going to be my average user, and you showed me places where I didn't even think that I need to button that down, fix that up, make this look a little better, and that's one of the points. I'm so deep into this conversation already, and I don't want to be. Elegant simplicity.
The thing is, you can get so close to something that you miss it. I mean, that's a perfectly good reason why it's always advantageous to get an outside party to do proofreading on something that you've done, because your mind looks at what's on the paper and it sees what you intended instead of what's actually there, and you can miss lots of errors that way. So exactly. So same with you. You were very close to the project. You were developing it, and some of the obvious things, for instance, there was that one little nuance in there where you can choose your category, and it was in one screen but not in the initial screen, and I thought I was losing it, but when I pointed it out to you, you pointed out that, oh yeah, right, just have to shift it over there. So
yeah, a simple overstatement. Yeah, exactly. And to be honest with you, the actual product started out, it was very simple, and the interface was very simple, but it wasn't very elegant. But as time went on, I was discovering that because there's a lot of features you haven't even seen yet in the newer versions that are coming out, that I had to think about and incorporate in this version.
Right.
Because I had to make sure whatever I put in this version, when a person steps up to the next version up into like a pro or an agency or a server edition of the software, it had to make sense. The flow had to be there from square one. So that was part of that. But okay, elegant simplicity. So when you're developing a product, whether it be software, whether it be, it doesn't matter what
whatever it is, yeah.
Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You really have to think it through. And That's what I like. When I find you get to a place where it makes sense and people around you are nodding their heads and it makes sense, and not only that, they're willing to open up their wallets as proof that it makes sense, then you've entered in what I call elegant simplicity.
Right.
Now, a lot of companies will bring things to a place where they're elegant but they're extremely simple to use, and you'll see what happens is over time they kind of go from this place where it's difficult, 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 and they hit that watermark where it's perfect.
Yeah.
And then over time, and this is especially so with software, they keep adding features and adding features, and you see them start drifting and drifting and drifting. And before you know it, the software is extremely hard to use or unmanageable, completely unmanageable, unusable. And you see this in a lot of places. There's a restaurant here in Canada called Tim Hortons, and I probably shouldn't have said that on the air, but I just did anyhow. And I feel that they've lost their point of elegant simplicity. They try to cater too much to too many different demographics and too many different meals and such. And I remember when they were a very small coffee donut shop, and did they capture as much profits as they could have? I don't think so. But they kind of hit that place where they got into this place of elegant simplicity, and they just kept going. And now they're becoming complicated, and now they're becoming unpleasant to go to because of that, and eventually it'll be their downfall. Another one is a very big department store. I won't say this one name. Again, it's in Canada and the United States, and they hit that point of elegant simplicity. They captured a large market in both in North America as a whole, and now they're almost bankrupt because they forgot about that elegant simplicity. That even a big department store has to find that point, that they need to find the tipping point that brings them into the market, and they're strong, but there also comes a place where they lose their focus. Because one of the core elements of elegant simplicity is knowing your core ideals. What is your core concept to whatever you're doing? And Nancy, I can honestly say to you, regardless of what it is, and you can break that thing down and say, why did I build this? Why did I do this? Why did I make this? Like Livestream Genius, I did it because I wanted to be able to easily stream videos with the live stream service on YouTube, easily, because there was no software that easily did it.
There's a really good book that I've read. I don't remember, Frank, maybe you even suggested it to me, but it's called Start With Why. And the key component to creating and developing a product has to do with why are you doing it? And once you've identified why you're doing it, then everything kind of goes from there. And I think part of what the problem is with people, like new and improved Tide, well, all they did is change the packaging, really. Maybe give you a little bit less, maybe throw in a little bit more bleach or something. Mm-hmm. But instead of just focusing on serving your current and core clientele with a superior product, people start to get ahead of themselves. They think they have to be bigger and bolder and newer and add bells and whistles. And you're right. I mean, they end up overcomplicating it when really just address what it is that you're doing. Start with why.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's always important to remember that. Companies will say that they need to have their, what is the word, Nancy? Their mantra, the reason for being. There's a name that they use in business for that.
Their mission statement?
Their mission statement, thank you. They put their mission statement up on the wall so they don't forget why they're in business. This is exactly the same concept. When companies forget about that mission statement or don't really keep it and reflect to it, business does change. Business does morph into different things, and you've got to reflect back on your mission statement and say, is this bringing me closer to my mission statement or not? Or should I be moving in this direction? I know within my business that's happened. I've had this shift. But funny enough, I was saying to my darling wife, I'm going deeper and deeper into more software development and that. And she said to me, well, you've been meaning to do this for years and you've never done it. So maybe it has been my mission statement and I never even knew it, so to speak.
Didn't see the nose on your face.
Nope.
Well, I
So,
think sometimes what people have to beware of as well, and I don't intend to insult any of the listeners, any of the viewers here at all, but sometimes people get a little bit arrogant with what they're doing too, if I can use that word, and they want to show how smart they are. So I think in some cases maybe what they're doing is they're developing all these things to show how smart they are, and I know that even goes into writing. There's a reason back in the day, 20 years ago, when the newspapers were everything, and there were so many of them. There was a reason. The one local Calgary paper wrote at a specific grade level. I believe it was
mhm,
grade 6. Globe and Mail, I believe, was at grade 8, and Financial Post might have been in grade 10. But they never spoke at a level higher than that
mhm,
capability. And the reason for that is you're not looking at a university thesis. You want to capture people's attention. They don't want to have to work too hard to get the story. So don't overthink the process. I worked with a woman who was always busy writing articles, and it was like she was doing a thesis. And I kept saying, simplify it. Speak to your reader. Speak to your audience.
you lose the audience in the explanation.
Exactly.
I know that I've listened to many preachers and that over the years in different churches and that, and one thing that always comes clear to me is a good speaker uses this concept of elegant simplicity, and I would have to dare say any speaker uses this concept. He knows what his core concept he's trying to transmit is, and when you get a speaker that starts throwing and heaping more and more data and more examples and more of everything, what happens a lot of the time is you start to see that boat drift. And before you know it, you actually have no idea what the person's talking about anymore. And worse, you might be there, sleeping because you have completely lost your place.
Yeah.
You don't know why you're there. I've been in on business lectures. I've been in teaching classroom settings, and it's the same all around. If you walk in and you have a core concept, and a core concept is always simple, always
Yes.
simple. An expression that I use, I train other software developers now, and the one thing I say to them all the time is, if you come to me, sorry, I have to read this or else I will not say it right. If you come to me and with a complex problem, provide me with a simple solution.
Yeah.
If you come to me with a simple solution and you try to create a complex problem, you've done it all wrong. You've done two things wrong. First thing is you're overthinking it, and the second thing is you're overthinking it. And I say that in two different places because you're overthinking the solution, but you're also overthinking the problem.
Yes.
You have to look at the problem and figure out, why is this not working? I remember in the summertime, we were trying to move our large RV. We have a large A-class RV, like a big bus, and we tried to move it, and I was trying to be very careful to stay on the gravel, and one of my tires went off the gravel, sunk
Ooh.
right down in the mud. I looked at it, and the fellow who was helping me thought, oh, we could do this, and we could do that, and we could do that. And I looked at the problem, and I looked at the problem, and I looked at the problem, and we tried a few things, and it was just getting worse. And I said, no, stop. We're not going to go anywhere, and I have to think about this. And I literally slept on it and got up the next morning and looked at it, and I was like, I believe the only solution to this problem is to call a tow truck. And now it sounds silly, but you know something? A lot of the solutions we had ganged up had nothing to do with the tow truck. Now, I'll tell you
Right.
something. The tow truck came in 10 minutes we were out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's because I had time to think of the most simple solution.
Yeah.
And fortunately for me, because I have a plan, I didn't have to pay anything for it. But I realized that even if I had to pay for a tow to get that out of the mud, it was still a better solution than everything else we thought of. Because
You
in
expended all that
retrospect,
time and energy on
and I
stuff that didn't work.
right, and all you're doing is making the situation worse. And
Right.
it's even that way. I found that there was times when I was writing the software, and I would be writing it, and I'd start going down this bunny trail, thinking I'm on the right path, and I'd go down this bunny trail, and I'd literally I'd paint myself into a corner, for a better way to put it,
Right.
and I'd have to stop. And there's times that I actually had to back up and walk away for a week or so at a time, just to think about it and just think on it. And I've also discovered that it's really good to sit down and bring people in on that problem and say, how would you solve this problem? You wouldn't believe some of the most elegantly simple solutions that were brought to the table. Well, why don't you just do this? And I'm like, it's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
So that's another core concept of building an elegant solution. First of all, it is simple. Simple, simple, simple. Every piece of it should be simple. I believe that it's better to have 3 simple steps to a solution than 1 complex step. Break it
Absolutely.
down until you can't break it down any further. Once you get down to the nuts and bolts and you're going to have to take a hacksaw to cut the bolt in half, then you know you've gotten to where you should be on that problem. The second one is don't be afraid to bring people in. A lot of people are afraid that their idea is going to be stolen, or if they share their idea, people think they're stupid, or
Yeah.
I went through all those emotions, all those thoughts, and I had to either A, put legal structures in place to protect myself, or
Right.
B, just trust somebody. And
Or a combination of both.
or a combination of both, absolutely. Because some of our beta testers had to sign non-disclosures. And so they're legally binding to, and they have to come to us whenever they want to make mention of anything of the software. And now we're kind of at the point where we're launching,
Right.
and we're like, tell the world, fill your
Yeah.
boots.
Yeah.
Because now we're in a place where we're not holding a lot of risk, where we still have a large development time.
Well, the reality too is a lot of times, and I'm guilty of this too, you do fret and worry a whole lot that somebody's going to take your brilliant idea and they're going to steal it and run away and they're going to make all this money. I'm working with a client right now that is in the development stages, just about ready to launch a new app, and he was the same. He had a couple of people who approached who had said, "Oh, we were looking at doing the same kind of thing. If you're looking for investors, instead of creating one, maybe we can pony up." And his big concern was, well, maybe they're just fishing for information. They're going to run with it. And my answer was, how many fast food restaurants all serve hamburgers?
Mm-hmm.
And yet, they all carve out their niche.
Mm-hmm.
They all have their points of differentiation, and they all move forward. And that's what you have to do: is move forward, be confident in what you have, deliver it to your core client, and know what your point of difference is. Your idea isn't going to be the only idea in the whole world that is similar.
No, and that's actually a good point. Whenever you're developing an idea or a concept, before you get too deep into it, or you invested too much time, energy, or resources into it, you need to make sure other people are interested in it. And that's a point that it's going to be coming to, but let's get to it right now. Is when that person found other people were saying, wow, that's something I was thinking of doing too, I'd like to invest into it. You've sold your product. Get
Yeah,
them in. If you need those angel investors, bring them in.
exactly.
Allow them to become part of that product, because the product will be better. And you've also proved that you have a product.
Yeah,
You just haven't
keep
got an
control of the
idea.
business.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that you value it properly and split out the shares accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
But isn't 70% of something better than 100% of nothing if you can pool resources, including time, energy, and money, and make something a success?
Exactly. And my product is not unique on the market. Definitely not. But I tried to find my uniqueness in the market. I
Precisely. Point
tried,
of
and
differentiation.
exactly. And one thing I did was I talked to other people about my competing products that they had, and said to them, what do you like about the product and what don't you like?
Right.
And it was amazing, some of the things that were brought out. Well, this product doesn't stream at full HD, and I want it to stream at full HD because it makes a difference. Or this product crashes my computer all the time. Or this product is a memory hog. Or this product, it cuts out pieces. Or this. And I had to make sure that I overcame all my competitors' issues,
Right.
because that, again, is part of that elegant simplicity. Now, to say that the product is simple is a definitive understatement. Elegant simplicity means whatever you present at the end of the day is simple and elegantly simple. It's like, wow, this is powerful.
People will be intimidated if something comes across as too complex or takes too
Exactly.
long of a learning curve.
Exactly. Underneath the hood, there is a lot of stops and checks. There's a tremendous amount to make that simplicity shine. And the one thing I had mentioned was that one person said to me, this software that I'm using right now is great, It does a great job streaming, but it just inhales all the memory in my computer.
Right.
I have to shut everything else down, and I got to reboot my machine, and I hope my machine doesn't crash before I
Oh, wow.
finish streaming. And I made sure that I was watching memory, and he was right. When you're streaming, it just nails memory. It just takes your memory. So I had to put in algorithms and little programs to watch that memory and to release it on a
Right.
constant basis. And once I had done that, it made a huge difference in the functionality of the product. And they were amazed. Like, I can stream an hour of video and there's no problem. And most of the other products do have issues in that regard. So the next thing, too, is contemplate all ideas. Your beta testers or your inner sanctum or inner circle, the people whom you trust that you're talking about, are going to bring a boatload of ideas to the table. And how you check to see if that's an idea that should stay with the product or maybe be something different, because there's a wonderful, wonderful thing called scope creep. What happens is you have an idea and then you do this and you do this and you do this and you do this and you do this, and that's what causes elegant simplicity to kind of go off the radar and become
mushrooms.
complicated. It just mushrooms. So take every idea that's brought before you, make note of it, and decide whether or not this is important. And how you do that is go back to core concept. Always go back to your core concept. I had somebody come to me and say, it would be so great if this product could also look for the rankings on my videos and see how things are going. And I said, that's a great idea, but it doesn't reflect my core concept, which is streaming. I said to the fellow, I said, that's a brilliant idea, and I'm going to build another product for that.
I was going to say that to me, that's an auxiliary product that would enhance the Livestream Genius. But yeah, you don't have to have everything all balled up into one.
No, and that's another business savvy sort of thing too. You don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. You want to be able to develop a software for this and a software for this, because now the software becomes manageable. You know, look at Adobe. Adobe is, a lot of people say negative things about these guys, but they are actually brilliant. All their software interworks. It all works together. So if you run one, you can patch it over into the other. And other developers are starting to think the same way. And this is even beyond software. I'm starting to see car manufacturers. You can buy one car or the other, and the parts are transmutable because it reduces their overall cost. They can take pieces from one and put it into the other. But for the user, the experience is genuine. It's wonderful, and especially with like the Adobe products. Now, there's things you're going to say positive about it, things you're going to say negative. But I can honestly say that if you begin to understand one interface, you can jump over to the other interface and start picking your way through, because they've tried to make a lot of things intermixing and the same in a lot of ways. So that was very important. So always, again, contemplate all ideas, and then, make note of them. And then if you don't find that it lines up to your core concept, throw it away. An idea came to me that it would be nice if the product could just log me into YouTube and I can go add my video after. And I thought about it and I thought, it's not my core concept, but it does fit well with it. And it's a simple little thing that I can add in. And and you've seen the interface. Once you do the stream, the button changes to edit, and you can click it, logs you, and you can do editing, which is nice. It's a nice little feature. And what it does is it brings longevity of the person using the product. Because if you're paying a monthly fee for the product, and you use it, and you feel like you only use it 10 minutes a month, you're going to have a really hard time paying for it. But if you find that you're using it to go in and edit your videos and do things, it brings more value to the table and still fits within that core concept.
And it's a shortcut. It saves somebody one extra step.
Exactly.
But I think if we can go back to just something that you mentioned a couple of minutes ago, I think what we have to do too is understand when you're getting these ideas from everybody, as you point out, a lot of them are very valid, very good ideas, but if they don't mesh with your ideal concept, your reason why, then it doesn't really make sense to do it. And the thing to remember always is you will never be everything to everyone, no matter what you do.
No, exactly.
So accept that.
Yeah, and that's looking at your core concept, because there was ideas that are brought to the table that I'm like, okay, that's great. Like somebody said to me, well, why can't you make it so it starts up a Google Hangout? And I'm like, that's another good product maybe elsewhere, but not here.
Right.
not here. And I
Well,
felt
then
that
you'll have somebody else that wants to hook up to go to webinar, and somebody,
exactly, exactly. And I wanted to make sure that the tool was good to use for everybody, including YouTube. In that one person said to me, make it so I can stream 1,000 videos a day, and I went, no, you're not my customer. I'm not interested because
right.
you're going to ruin it for everybody because of the fact that you're going to be violating their terms of service. And I said that's not going to happen. So and I did a study of what is healthy upload amounts, like for
Right.
videos and times and that, and I made sure the software matched that. I made sure that that it conformed to a lot of YouTube and Google's terms of services, and does it. And I still feel it's one of the core concepts. Now, does some of my customers like that? No, I'm not their customer. I'm not their software vendor. It's not for them.
But
If they want,
you bring up a very valid point there, though, Frank. That the point is that, yeah, you could build it to do that, but as you point out, then you're going to be violating a whole bunch of rules and regulations, terms and conditions of different hosting agencies such as YouTube. So
exactly.
you get shut down from there. Then what's the point in even having the product, right?
Well,
So
that's a valid point too.
so no matter what the product or the service is, make sure that you work within the parameters so you're not going to get yourself shut down and alienate any clients that you have.
Exactly, exactly. When you're stock trading, make sure you don't inside trade, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I've discovered is there's a show on the Food Channel, or one of these channels, called Food Factory. I don't know if you've ever seen it,
Yeah.
but I enjoy watching that show because it is it's prime example of the whole idea of elegant simplicity. You'll see a factory where they're creating puff pastry, and there's a lot of manual processes to it. Or the process, you're watching it and you're kind of thinking to yourself, boy, they're really doing that the hardest way possible.
Right.
And their explanation is, well, we've done this since the old country this way. And I look at it, and then you see a show a couple days later, and they're putting out a like product, and it's all mechanized. And you
Yes.
look at it, and they're putting out a superior product because they've found solutions that are extremely elegant. Like, there was one show that I was watching, and they were showing how they rolled the dough on top of the inner stuff and all that, and it was just two little cleaves that just kind of came in and just pushed it down. And I went, oh, that's such a simple. I love that. I love it when I see something simple.
Yep.
And the cool thing about it is it could run fast, and it was elegant, and it just did exactly what it needed to do, and then it didn't try to do anything it wasn't supposed to do. So the show is a really good example
Well,
of good and bad.
and I'll make the point that that group of individuals that you say they've done it that way for, 14 generations from the old country, there's nothing wrong with continuing those traditions, but focus on what your market is. What is your why? If you're looking at mass producing something that is going to be carried in every grocery store in North America, then you want those mechanized processes.
Mm-hmm.
If you're taking pride in creating something that is handmade, that's great, but carve out that niche. You can charge more for your product. It's more of a specialized item, and make sure that you're catering to that audience.
Exactly, exactly. And I found that the companies that were trying to do both, as you just mentioned, trying to service everybody on the market and still trying to be a mom and pop, I could see the problems with it right away. I could see, hey, they were successful and they were doing a lot, but I could also see where a lot of money was being thrown away,
Mm-hmm.
where they could clean up these processes. Now, there's sometimes somebody needs to be there. Like if they can run a sorting machine that looks at all the cherries that go by, but there's going to need somebody with that intelligence to be watching that line and pull out the ones that are bad. Hey, I'm with that. That's
Yeah.
great.
Quality
Because
control.
the quality control, there's no way to mechanicize. That's probably not really probably the right word. There's no way to automate that. So there still needs to be a manual process involved. But when you can put an automatic process in, you're going to get a better product. I don't care what you think or say, you will, because now everything will be exactly the same. And if you don't like how thick something is or how it comes out, you can adjust and adjust and adjust until you get exactly what you want.
Yeah, exactly.
And that brings me nicely to one of my next points, is whenever you're looking to bring something to the point of elegant simplicity, it's not a short process. It isn't. Sometimes you're going to have a brainchild, and you're going to sit down, and you're going to be a Da Vinci, and just it's there, boom. But most times it's not that way. You're going to have flashes of inspiration. You're going to do what I call the development dance: 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You're going to get ahead 2 steps and discover that you've made a mistake, and you have to step back 1. That is all part of the process, and it's going to take time. I initially thought, I could knock this software off in a couple weeks, because I've done that in the past.
I remember you saying that to me.
3 months later, I've only got the basic version done, and the Pro and the server editions are still on the drawing board in a lot of ways. And there were so many things that jumped me, and it was a really good learning process.
The difference between inspiration and integration of everything you need sometimes is a wider chasm than you think.
Exactly, and it was a big leap, I tell you. And you have to stay to it. You have to trust that as you're working through the process and you're taking the ground slowly but surely, that you will get to a place where you'll have that elegant simplicity that you're looking for. No restaurant that's a good restaurant, for example, because we all know restaurants, got there by opening up the doors and being successful. I once read Nancy, I remember reading an article one time that the average person has to lose at least 1 or 2 businesses before they become successful.
Right, because they learn from their mistakes.
Exactly. They have to burn a few before they can actually make one thrive.
Yeah.
And I know that too. My business, I've ran a few businesses that have been good in that. But this business that I'm in now, I just think it's sheer blunt-headedness at times. But it has brought me to a place where I keep trying and keep redeveloping myself and keep trying and redeveloping the business and bringing the people in that I need to get things done.
Yeah.
And I look at what I started out with and what I have now, and it looks like 2 different businesses. But the funny thing has happened is I've moved closer to my core competencies. And that's another good point that I only have in my notes.
Competencies and your love.
Exactly. If your core competencies and your love will drive you to a better product. Don't try to do what you shouldn't be doing. Stick with what you're really, really good at.
Well, you've evolved a lot since you and I first met, which is, about 4 years ago now. And when I first met you, you still were the IT guy, the techie guy, but you were focusing more on, social media, SEO, all those kinds of things, which, granted, you did, and you did well, but it wasn't what you loved to do.
To be honest with you, I really love the programming of things. This show, for example, I love doing this show simply because of the fact that it touches the artistic side of me. I like doing the movie editing. I love doing a lot of the techie things around that. And also I love digging into my brain and trying to make myself better. And that's one of the reasons why I do the show. I learned a long time ago that I can only bring myself to 80 to 90% competency on anything until I teach it. Once I start teaching it, I exceed 100%, because now I'm forced into a place of really thinking about it and finding the elegant simplicity in complex situations.
Exactly.
All the time.
Well put.
Yeah. And Nancy, and that, again, there's so many things just looking at this show that we've talked about that have been presented within the show. I used to do this show by myself, and I found that when I brought you into the show, it became so much better because it allowed a true dialogue and also another point of view.
Yes, and I think that's important to bring that to your listeners for the podcast, now viewers, now that we've evolved into this streaming of the video as well. And I do think that's important. I think it's very important that you're communicating with your listeners, your viewers, your prospects, your clients in a way that is conversational, that even though they're not part of the live version of it in most cases, the fact that they feel like they can be part of the conversation. And I think that, even the DJs on the radio, is a lot of times they work in groups of 2 and 3 just to play off each other, especially in the morning shows.
Exactly. Well, it brings a whole different dynamic to the show.
Right.
Eventually, I would like the show to have a place where we are bringing questions and listening to people's questions on air and presenting answers and such. And I've already built a format for that, and I hope to institute that within the next 4 or 5 shows. But for now, you're right. And it's kind of funny and kind of unusual because everything we do here has been seen by other people, and I've already had other people come to me and say, hey, I want you to do that for my show or for
Right.
my thing or my idea. And sure, I do this show for free, absolutely. But believe it or not, it does generate business. And I'm sure even for you, Nancy, it's generating business.
It sure is, yeah.
One more thing that I'd like to hit is make sure that when you're actually working on creating an elegantly simple solution is to track your progress. In other words, keep a change file. And it doesn't have to be anything sexy. It could just I literally have a notepad file on my Windows machine, and every time I put out a new version, I date stamp it, I put the version stamp on it, and I put in what I did. What did I change, and why did I change it? And I also keep a running record of things that have been brought to me, error fixes, bug fixes, changes that would be good, and I time them into the proper sequence and when they should come in, what is most important, or what just needs to happen, and I institute them and make note of it within my change log. And I have found that when I am working on an idea, I'm working on a concept with somebody else, if I keep a running change log, they come to me and say, I really like doing these half-an-hour shows, but I'd like to do 20-minute show. I'll make note of that. And if 6 months later, that person will come to me and say, why are we doing 20-minute shows? I'll say, because we talked about it and discussed back here that doing a 20-minute show was more intuitive for you. Oh, yeah, I remember, yes. So it's an accountability sort of thing, not only for yourself, but anybody you're involved with. And it's critically important, and I believe critically important when you have other people involved. Make sure you bring in people who are not your core competency, but they bring something to the table. The fellow who I'm working with on the software is an SEO kind of guy, so he understands that. But also, he's deep into video. He's deep into doing video editing. He's the guy who brought the idea to me initially. And we started to put the idea together and started putting rubber to the road, so to speak. And he's been genuinely magic in that because of the fact that he's not a programmer. He's not a techie guy. He's a techie guy, but he's more of a relationship guy. So he's been building the relationships, building the marketing bits and pieces. And I've actually said to him that we got to bring you in to start building in more of the social media because you understand that element quite well. So we're building a team. We're tracking our progress. We're watching changes. We're always reflecting back on our core competency. Nancy, are we missing anything on this idea?
Well, I think the whole idea of making sure that you keep your change log and date stamp and keep track of everything, that doesn't just go to your software development, although those are important components that you know what happened. It goes to the broader picture that we've talked about in other things having to do with straight up marketing.
Yeah.
You always want to be able to measure what it is you're doing, no matter what it is you're doing, because that's the only way you can tell what's working, what isn't, what needs fixed.
Exactly. On the marketing side, we have started to already start building tweets and things like that to send out to interested parties, and we keep track of
Yes.
how much response or what kind of response we get from a certain type of tweet. And we'll change words and move ideas around and see where we get response and sales. And we're just starting that process, so that's definitely something that's evolving and being built.
Yeah.
But we're also looking at Facebook. We're looking at exactly what you said. We're keeping track of what we're putting down, and we're looking at what we're tracking, and we're looking at our response rate. Because at the end of the day, this is all going to cost money.
Yeah, if you throw $5,000 at a Facebook ad that isn't giving you any return, you might as well just have taken that $5,000 and flushed it down the toilet. You have to be able to measure.
Yeah, even worse, Nancy. You spend the $5,000 and think, oh, I just spent $5,000 on Facebook. If you were actually watching it, you might have made $50,000 worth of sales.
Right.
So if you flush that idea down because you think it's worthless, have you lost $5,000 or $50,000?
Yes. By tweaking it, maybe you could have made a whole lot better return.
Exactly. And that's something, and that's another point to elegant simplicity. You're always tweaking. You're always touching. One of the things that that I was doing near the end of the product development cycle for this particular version, and it doesn't even stop after you release, is I'm changing colors in the interface, and I'm making things look a little different and seeing what the response is. And people are actually saying, "Wow, this software looks better, and it looks like it's worth more, and it's more sexy, and it's more everything." And I haven't changed one single piece of functionality. All I've changed is look and feel.
Well, that's a very important point, and that's something that I'm glad you mentioned this because I would have forgotten to bring it up. But there is that point that in the whole elegant simplicity thing, that again, defining your why, your reason why you're doing it, but making sure that the image that you're presenting to your core audience is applicable to that core audience. In some cases, if you make it look too big and too fancy, they think you're charging too much. If you make it look too understated, they maybe won't buy because they think it's cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to find that sweet spot that works.
Exactly. It's funny. You can go to one department store and see a widget that you want to buy, the blue widget, and it's $29.95. And then you go to another department store that is for the higher class, and that widget's $129. It's the same darn thing. And
Yep.
you and I would look at it and go, "I can get it for $29, you know, XYZ." But it doesn't matter, because the person who goes into that store, the store, the high class store, they're like, yeah, and because they put a beautiful display around it, they put a pretty bow, they've got somebody who
brand.
explains it.
Yeah, they've built their brand, and they think that they can put it out there, that because you're dealing with them, obviously it is worth more.
Exactly. So Nancy, to wrap up the show, I believe it was a good show, but I want to make sure the listeners know how they can get in contact with you. So if you want to share your details.
Yeah, sure. My company is Agape Marketing and Consulting, and you can find me online at www.agapemarketing.com. And Agape is spelled AGAPI.
Excellent. And I know you have lots more information online. I know you have your own show that you have on YouTube. Lots of great stuff to share there. Make sure you get involved and look at what Nancy's doing there. As well as, if you're interested in Livestream Genius, it's Livestream Genius. That's GENIUS.com. That's livestreamgenius.com. Come on over. The site should be live by the time the show is live. Knock on wood. And
great product, very easy to use.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And also be sure to stop by the Small Business Tip Show website and see what I have for you. I've got a special offering called Finding Your Passions. It's very important for you to work on your passions. It's very important for you to be what you were meant to be, and you can actually do business at the same time. Nancy, once again, thank you so much. Your input was wonderful.
Thanks very much.
Have a good week, everybody, and we'll see you next week.